All right, welcome, Greg Dawson.
Hey,
Thanks.
thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for being here, man.
Absolutely.
We've known each other for a little bit, eh?
Yeah, yeah, quite some time. Brampton.
Brampton, eh? It's a small
Yes, sir.
town.
You're
Everybody's
still,
gonna
are
know
you
each
still
other.
in Brampton?
Oh yeah, I'm still where I was, just across from where you used to be.
Okay, so you're still at the same location, right on.
I moved out
How
for a
is,
while, but we
how's Brampton?
moved back. Well, I mean, right now in quarantine, who knows, right?
Yeah,
Everybody's
okay,
sort of, you know, just all like,
locked up.
yeah. So you get out, you see a couple people here and there, but you're minding your distance. So
Yeah.
it's still
Well,
Brampton, I guess. That's kind of what the answer is there for you.
yeah, yeah. Well, once things settle down a bit, I'll be back to visit. There's a lot of people I'd like to see and places I'd like to go just that I miss.
Yeah, for sure.
When the time is right.
When the time is right, we'll do
Mm,
all that. But this
yeah.
lockdown's been had us all busy. I think some of us, not so much, but I've certainly had my hands full with some stuff, and I've seen that you've been working on a lot of stuff here. I got actually, what's this right here? A new release.
Hey, nice.
Old. Uh,
Yeah.
how long did this take you?
Well, geez, it took a while, uh, we started writing it before, the pandemics happened. But I was already in Kingston and the rest of the band was in the Toronto area. So, we had to kind of create over email and kind of create skeletons of songs and then say, okay, work on this one, work on this one. And then I would drive to Toronto and we would all meet and rehearse and write together. And so it was lengthy in that way because we didn't have a regular jam schedule, right? But we made it work, and we still got in the jam room. Jams wouldn't be like a couple hours. I would go down there and we would jam for 7 hours, right? So
Oh
we would
yeah,
and we would have a schedule like we're going to work on idea 7 and idea 9 and idea 11, and then we would just get to work, have a dinner break, get back to work, and then I would drive back to Kingston. So they would be huge days for me, like 3 hours of driving one way, 7 hours of jamming, and then 3 hours back. And then once we felt that the songs were ready, we scheduled our recording time. So yeah, it took a while, and then the actual pandemic got in the way of the release. Just finding a label, and then once we found a label, the pressing plants were slowed down because of COVID stuff. So,
yeah.
but it's out, and we're stoked, and people seem to be digging it. So I'm very happy.
I'm definitely digging it. I was listening to it earlier. I give it another spin. I give it the first spin when I got it. I was so excited to hear it, and it shreds, man. It rips. It
Thank you
just
very much, man. I
absolutely
appreciate that. Everyone
awesome.
that has bought a copy and supported the band in any way, I uh, definitely appreciate it. Stoked on it.
Yeah, so it was definitely recorded all mostly during quarantine. It was written before quarantine, but it was definitely recorded during quarantine.
It was more like mixed and getting ready to be released during quarantine. It
Okay,
happened. It was written and recorded uh,
prior to that, but
prior. Yeah.
just barely prior,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
on the brink. But you've got another project that you're working on. Agitation, is it? By Grail, Grail band.
Grail, yeah. Well, that's out. The Grail EP. Um, yeah,
That
that
was
was
all
something
in
that was
quarantine
done
too.
over quarantine, all recorded and written remotely, which started out as just an idea I had to kind of stay busy during the first lockdown that happened in 2020. I was just like, well, geez, I can't work right now. I don't know what this, the virus was just like a complete mystery at that time. And so I needed to stay busy musically. So I reached out, I think via Facebook, and said, hey, who wants to just do some stuff online and do some creating? And then it was meant to just be just a fun project, but then it turned into a band because these four guys we really gelled together, right? And
Mm.
it wasn't even until recently. this year, in fact, where I actually met Dan, the singer. He was a friend of Mark, uh, our bass player. So he said, "Hey, my buddy Dan would be really into this project. Let me shoot some ideas his way." And then, anyway, it just happened, and I didn't even meet Dan in person until very, very recently. But we recorded
Wow.
and finished the whole thing remotely without even ever meeting each other in person, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, when you can do that, like I mean, for me, I've always like thought creativity was something that you had to manifest by yourself, and you had to come up with something in your imagination, and then you had to put it down or whatever. See, it's
Right.
always been like a one person job for me, but I've never been in a band, so I've never
Right.
seen it happen like that. So when I hear
Hmm.
about like magic like that, it's just like everything coming together, and you guys have never even met each other. It's just like fluid, That's a crazy thing to happen.
Yeah, I agree. It was, and to me, it sounds when you listen to it, it sounds like a band. It wasn't done. All the instrumentation is real. There's nothing programmed. There's nothing synthetic about it, I guess. And not that anything's wrong with that, but I just like that. It's real drums, real guitar, real bass, real vocals, and everyone has their own recording studio. And we communicated well with ideas. Like I would send a skeleton of an idea out, and then Kevin would play around with the drums, and then he'd send it back to me, and I'd be like, "Yeah, hell yeah, that's great." And then I'd send him out to Mark, and he would come up with the bass lines, and then Dan would receive the song last and do the vocals. And I'm not sure if some of the structures changed. I think some of the structures changed, which, with editing, you can change them at any time. You could, if Dan's like, "Oh, I need two more here or one less here, or why don't we add two more and do a guitar solo there?" Like it's pretty easy to do that, but still have it sound pretty organic and like a real band.
Yeah, I was listening to some of that earlier the Grail EP that you released. It kind of reminds me of like Queen of the Damned soundtrack, with like David Draymond and stuff like that, like the disturbed corn kind of sound. So it
Right, right.
definitely sounds like a real band for sure. But
Nice, thank you.
you mentioned both for Old and for Grail that it was like skeletons that you were sending back and forth. So how is like working on something for Grail different than working on something for Old?
Well, I guess Old would eventually meet in a jam room. So
Mm,
if I had an idea, which I'm calling a skeleton, it's just basically a song written on guitar, that has an intro, a verse, a chorus, a middle part, whatever, an outro, and I would send that out to the guys, and they would say, or yay, yeah. And then we'd be like, okay, let's work on this one and this one. And then everyone would kind of listen to it and semi learn it loosely. And then we would show up in the jam room, and then we start bouncing ideas off each other in the jam room, where a lot of things can change in the jam room because you're like, a tempo thing or whatever, right? Like ideas just magically happen in a jam room where in Grail, the things didn't change that much. Like everyone added their flavor, which completely changed the way things felt, but the initial structure of the song kind of stayed there. It was just more about what everyone added to it to turn it into a song rather than things changing in a jam room like they do with Old.
yeah, I
So,
get that because like I mean I've seen Old live. I've seen you guys live at the Collation. I think it was that I saw you the first time at least.
okay.
And I when I see a band perform, I usually watch how organic they work with each other and how they play off of each other and stuff. And like you can see that you guys are like meshed together, that you work
Hmm.
as a unit, right? But I guess with Grail, as it's opposed to like a separate thing, you've always been separate. You haven't had the chance to be
Yeah,
working on
I
something
would love
together.
to. I would love to. Like what started out as a project band now feels, even though we haven't ever gotten in a jam room, it still feels like a real band. We are now writing new material, and we just finished an Entombed cover that is going to be on the May Slay at Home. I don't know if you know the Slay at Home
Yeah, Slay
festival
Home
that's done
Festival.
through
Yeah.
Metal Injection. So we did this Entombed cover. Um, and we had some friends on it, like Scotty from the Cancer Bats did a solo. My friend Tom did a solo. Doug actually from Old sings one of the verses. So him and like everything was still done remotely, but it's a bit more of a collaboration with Grail as the bass band. Anyway, I'm just going on about things, but
Hey, you know what?
yeah, it
That's what
feels
this is
more
for.
like a band. And I would like to think that once we do get in a jam room, that I think we'll gel very quickly because everyone's been around the block, everyone's played in a lot of bands and everyone knows their instrument well, and I think that's how the albums and the recordings sound so good with Grail is because just everyone's good at what they do.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what I like about a lot of the projects that you do is, I mean, you work with a lot of people that just know what they're doing, right? You've been doing it a long time. How long have you
Yes.
been doing it exactly?
Well,
Producing and
playing
mixing, mastering and playing and writing and recording.
playing and writing, I've been doing that a lot longer, since I guess late 80s, early 90s, is when I started playing like gigs, frequently, and recording kind of fell into my lap in the mid 90s, and then eventually by the late 90s it just kind of became my more full-time thing.
Yeah, because you started at Harlow Sound, am I right?
Yes, yeah.
And that was in the early 90s, I think, if I'm correct.
Mid 90s,
Mid
yeah.
90s? Yeah,
And I
see,
spent about 5 years there, and that was ultimately where I learned
so Greg, you've
everything.
been writing music and stuff since before I was born. I'm 31 years old. You've been at it for longer than I've been around. Man,
Well, I better be good by now, right?
exactly. So that's what I mean. You're always working with these guys that definitely know their way around what they're doing. I have a couple instruments here, but I can't say that I even know my way around them yet, let alone I'm any good at them. So, but
Well, if you're having a good time, I think that's what all musicians are really in search of, is that process of doing it and enjoying it. Regardless of the level. Like certainly not after I guess fame. Like, I mean, that's cool when people dig it. Absolutely want people to
let's
dig it
talk
and
about
and
something
listen
that
to
you
it.
do for fun that's not going to necessarily bring you fame. I heard that
Yeah.
this band did not earn you a single dollar. Am I right? Hunter
Uh,
has not
no,
made a single dollar.
no. Well, I mean, it's. I don't know if it's made anyone a dollar, to be
Mm.
honest with you, because Dine Alone did invest in the 7 inches that we put out and the discs and the posters and the. I mean, I guess that's pretty much it. But we haven't gotten to breaking even with them yet.
Yeah.
Which is okay. We're not even a band anymore, and we put out some 7 inches, and we had a hell of a lot of fun um, playing music together. And it was important for me, just to get that kind of fast, thrashy punk rock out of my system. Not even out of my system. It was just something I really wanted to do, and in fact, I want to do that again with maybe a different group of musicians, but like I still have a lot of that fast stuff in me that wants to come out, and I can't necessarily, definitely can't do fast stuff with Old. It was just,
Mm.
we're a Doom band, would be the Doom fans would be like, what is this fast business?
Yeah.
And Grail is more of a fist banging, kind of band, and not that I want to pigeonhole either of those projects, but neither of them are like punk
Yeah.
hardcore
You
bands.
you find your niche for each band that you're in and you roll with it. You stay in that course. You can
Sort
evolve
of,
your
yeah.
sound and you can
With
change it around, but
within
when
reason, like, yeah, we try to stay open minded. Even like Grail's writing some new stuff right now, and Mark sent some ideas today, and he's like, "Is it a bit too thrash metal?" And we're like, "No, man. Like, this we can make this sound like us. There's nothing wrong with you know expanding a bit on the sound we've developed with the EP. You know.
Yeah. I really like the Grale EP anyway. It really, like I said, it really reminded me of the progressive stuff that I used to listen to as a teenager and that stuff. Um,
Yeah, thanks, man.
but yeah, it was really great. You
I'm
also
happy to get it out.
you also mastered and remixed Needless to Say. The Choke remaster
Yeah,
is coming out next month. It's like April, May,
yeah.
June,
I think they
June, right?
just released like I think they may have just released one song off it just to give people a taste of
Yeah, I dropped that on my
what it
Twitter the other day.
sounds like. Yeah, yeah. That was really cool, man. That was really fun to get that gig. What an honor, really, because Choke's a pretty rad band, and they're good buddies of mine too. So I was stoked that I was given that gig, and it was a big responsibility. I wanted to make sure that I did the album justice. I didn't want to over mix it and like use too many new school kind of tools. I didn't want to modernize it. I just wanted to make it sound a lot better than the original mix, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
And I know,
still have like a sense of the time that it was created. So I thought, of man, if I overmix this thing and I start using too many new tricks, it's not gonna sound right. It's
right.
gonna sound like modern or something. I'm like, definitely didn't want that to happen.
I know
So
a lot
yeah,
of
everyone's really happy with it, so I'm stoked.
those older sort of like early 2000s releases, they just sort of sound grungy on CD and stuff like that. So I think like
Yeah,
a
and there wasn't a
remix for
lot
that
of
kind of stuff was in order.
there wasn't a lot of trickery in those days, like in late '90s, early 2000s, like now, like with resampling of drums and reamping of guitars, like you can make your album almost sound perfect, which, to be honest with you, I'm not a huge fan of that style of production, and I'm not knocking it. It's just not what I'm looking to get better at. Like I want things to sound like bands. I want it to sound like drums in a room, and I want it to sound like amps screaming. I'm not looking for that ultra perfect thing
Mm.
that is in a lot of newer punk metal heavy production. It's cool. It's not what I'm going for, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely hear you on that. I'm not, it's not that I have a particular preference in the matter, but I'm sort of on the more electronical side of synthesizing the noise because I'm not perfect at timing and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I'm used to just sort of programming things in. So it
Right,
just sounds a little more perfect, even though it's not intentional all the time. But
right.
yeah, I know what you mean about modernizing the sound and stuff like that. And I haven't really done much mixing or production myself, but I record and EQ my own stuff when I'm working on little projects here and there. So I'm
Right.
familiar with some, you know, my way around some of the DAWs and stuff like that. So
Sure, sure.
I know what it's like to work in them, but I'm not any kind of production manager, engineer, or anything like that.
Right.
But you've got so many things under your belt as far as like stuff that you've like mixed.
Hey,
And
I don't even have a copy of that.
what about like these old things, right? Well, you don't
Oh
have a
shoot.
copy of this?
No, I don't have a copy of Switcheroo.
I
I
have
think I
this
have
on
it on
picture disc
CD.
as well. I have it on
Oh,
CD, I
shoot.
have it on picture disc, and I have it on what's this, red vinyl? I think it's red vinyl. Yeah, it's red.
Damn.
It's red vinyl.
Oh, I'm gonna have to bug Kenny, but there's probably no more of those in existence. But
Yeah, who knows,
who
right?
knows?
Go
Maybe
take
I
a
might
look
get lucky.
at Dynalone, you'll find some. But I got like all kinds of like I've been collecting
Hey,
your work for ages. So I mean like
wow, I appreciate that, man.
Horses and the BWC Christmas album. I mean,
That's a classic.
oh yeah. I was looking for I think Haitian Knife Fight is in a box somewhere too, but I gotta find that. But
Right.
you've been working on stuff for so long. I mean, as
Yeah.
far as people call you a legend around here, like you
Well,
got your name on so many different things. Like it's kind of crazy to like when you mention when you're talking to music people in this area. Now I don't know about like you know widespread, but at least I know about Toronto and like the different studios around here that I'm familiar with.
right.
Those kinds of people. You mention your name and they know who you are, and it's
Well,
kind of
that's nice.
kind of crazy to think about that. I mean, like,
Well, I appreciate just being a part of the kind of music scene over the last 20 odd or so years, and happy to be a part of it, and happy to help any band that I've helped along the way. Uh, and it's really, I don't take it lightly when a band trust you with their art. You know what I mean? So I just try to do a good job, and especially these days, try to have a good positive attitude, because that wasn't necessarily always the case when I was starting out in recording and mixing. So, but I guess it's part of growing up,
yeah,
getting mature.
definitely
Yeah,
learning new material and
losing the ego.
yeah, like you gotta learn new tricks and you gotta lose the old ones. You gotta shake everything that you learned off sometimes, and you gotta just learn something completely new. You gotta treat yourself to
Yeah,
something different.
I think that, especially with I think that with just life in general, like and your kind of mental state, like I'm just less angry these days, and just a lot more chill and happier, and just trying to have a good time and enjoy life, because once you start getting my age, you start thinking about, well, what am I doing? I got to have a good time here. I want to spread some positive vibes. I don't need to be pissed off at stuff. It's kind of a waste. So,
Yeah, I'm
I
starting
mean,
to
I
hit
guess
that
there's a
point.
time and place for a bit of anger, but I'm just trying to just be positive and have a good time in life.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm
Yeah.
starting to hit that point, man, because I'm starting to notice my anger a little much. What's that for? What am I doing that for?
Right. Right.
Just, some of this time I'm getting upset at myself for getting angry. So you gotta just noticing those things and just pulling them aside.
Yeah.
But we were talking about how small this little town is and how you're so well known. I had Dave Bushmeyer on my podcast, a couple
Oh
episodes
yeah.
back, and I found
Nice.
out recently that you're going to be working to remaster some of the stuff for his old band, Spread the Disease,
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
vinyl release. I'm pretty excited
Yes,
about
sir.
that.
Yeah, actually, it's already done. I completed that very, very recently. I don't know
Wow.
what the timeline is for the release, but I think it went quite well.
Guess I'm gonna have to
You
talk
know,
to him again about that.
yeah.
Yeah,
I guess things are slow with pressing plants, I think, right now.
definitely for
Um,
sure. I heard about that like when COVID first hit. It was like, okay, everybody, your records that you were pre-ordered, they're gonna be a little late.
yeah,
Like, oh, okay,
yeah,
so
that's
for
still
the next
happening.
couple while, like, it's gonna be a while until I see that record.
It's
S-
unfortunate, but I mean, it's
It is
part of
what it
the.
is. It's
It
part
is
of
what
what
it
we're
is.
going through right now, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. I
Um,
can't complain about it. I can't. Yeah, I'm not really. I'm trying not to complain about anything right now, because I'm
Nobody's
doing
in the
okay.
condition to complain about anything right now. We're
Yeah,
all just in our houses going
yeah,
boo hoo. And I think we
yeah.
just gotta make the best of what we got, and that's what we
I
gotta
think so.
do.
Yeah, I think so. I'm just I'm thankful for the work that I'm still working a bit, not nearly as much, because I can't have people in the studio right now, which is challenging
Yeah,
to say no to things. But I'm happy for some post production work I got coming in, like mixing and mastering, and kids are doing well, wife is working. I can't complain, man.
yeah.
Not everything's perfect right now, but
I
I
mean, you
just
still got your hands full with like a different. You've got all kinds of projects rolling in that you can just master and just finger and just
Yes,
get
yeah.
your fingers in the pie. You know, you get head of the
It's give me
door.
some time. Give me some time to work on my own stuff, which is nice. And uh, it's really actually it's pretty rad to see a lot of creative people being pretty resilient through this situation we're all going through with not being able to perform or not being able to get into jam rooms or studios or whatever's holding us back. Where there's a lot of resilience in the arts, and it's pretty inspiring. And it's kind of everywhere. If you look for it, it's everywhere. Like just like that Slay at Home for one thing. Frank from Metal Injection, that's put that together. I mean, like what a rad thing. What a really cool thing.
Yeah,
And the work that he's putting into that and helping out bands at least feel like they're performing, and like and getting smaller bands like Old. Old was on the show, and a lot of people saw and heard us because of that. And I'm thankful for people in the music scene that are just going out of their way to try to make something good happen with this through this. It's really cool.
yeah. No, I mean like on Twitch where I'm broadcasting right now, they got a lot of like people that are just doing their music there, and like frontmen are just broadcasting by themselves.
Hmm.
There's always been like sort of a what do you call it? Sort of culture around that kind of thing.
Okay.
But it's starting to grow a lot recently, and I've been watching it grow because I've been part of the music community on Twitch for going on 3 or 4 years now.
Okay.
So I've been watching it like sort of grow and accumulate, and I'm watching like streamers who just started accumulate thousands of viewers and stuff like that. And so it's really
Mm.
rad during quarantine to see like people aren't just watching TV and stuff like that, and they're engaging with like musicians and creators in ways, and it's cool to see, and it's like it's like an evolution of like creativity because like
Yeah.
people are starting to realize, oh, not only is this person being like really creative and outside of the box doing something that I didn't think of, but I could also do that too.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
they're
It's
they're starting
inspiring.
to realize, yeah, exactly.
It's
Because like
inspiring.
there's this streamer I watch. He lives in California. We've become really good friends. His name is Aaron Goldberg, and
Okay.
he's a multi instrumentalist. I had him on my podcast once. He's gonna be on again probably. But he's got like 6 keyboards and a loop station and a synthesizer and these drum machines and a couple of
Hmm.
guitars and a whole drum kit behind him. And he'll hit just like anything he feels like.
Hmm.
Sometimes he'll just hit it like a beer can and start like looping that with his looper, and then he'll make a whole beat around the fact that he's hit a beer can. So it's pretty awesome to see like not just like individuals evolve, but like
Hmm.
communities evolve and grow from this,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like new people come out of it because I've watched people be inspired by him and start their own streams and just start playing music because of him and stuff like that. And it's just so inspiring. It's really great.
Yes. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. Yeah.
You've got like
Yeah.
all kinds of projects that are just going to roll out from this afterwards. And I think once COVID is over, it's going to be all kinds of bands hitting the road. It's going to be hard for a little while, especially with like borders being tight and stuff.
Yeah. And getting back to shows and how that's going to work.
Yeah, groups of
That's
people together and stuff like that.
something I really miss the shows. And I really feel for people in in the music community who, they tour. Their live music is their bread and butter, whether it be promoters or live sound men or even just people that load load in and outs and you know touring techs and stuff like that, man. Merch guys, all that. Like, I really feel for that community because people that tour in a band or with a band as a living, they're really missing it, and and uh, they're having to kind of create their life or reinvent their life right now, while they wait for music to come back to touring, and that's really, that's a lot more challenging the situation that I'm faced with in the studio, right? I can still do things, whereas live music is just completely halted.
Right.
Um, Pretty much completely, yeah. And so that's really sad, That's really sad.
Yeah, I mean, I've only been doing my podcast for about, like, I mean, just a bit under the duration of the time that the quarantine has been in effect, because, like, I started in June, I think.
Okay.
And I talked to Dan in July. I think it was the July. Sparrows Dan. You know Sparrows,
Okay.
right?
Right. Yeah.
Dan Thompson. Don the other day just dropped off his drum head. I got the Sparrows Failed God drum head cover on my wall now. But like
Nice.
these especially Sparrows, these guys were touring musicians.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
guys were heavy into touring. They were always on the road. And I can only imagine how much these guys are just like they must have to work like so much harder than they had to before because like they're not touring at all anymore. And
Yeah.
I mean, even if they can work, because I don't even know what they do for a living. I think Dan's a chef at a restaurant,
Mhm.
and you know
Right.
those places are suffering. So it's like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
man, this
It's really hard, man. And
really hard
and
right
not
now.
just not just the survival aspect of making a living, but just the mental implications, just depression. And I know if I had to completely stop working in a studio right now, I'd be super bummed. Not
Hmm.
just like I'd be for real depressed. It would not be a good time for me. So I'm super thankful that I'm still a little active with work, with clients, and then I have my projects, and this Grail thing certainly was huge for me last year, just to be able to be creative with other people, and because I really like collaborating. Collaborating is just a super important part of it. Even though it was just online back and forth, but you're still collaborating ideas, and you're communicating, and you're creating something together. It's not just me being like, "This is how it's written. Play this." Like, no, we collaborate and we communicate, and that's a anyway. I'm super thankful for that. I couldn't imagine having you know it all taken away like that. So I'm really feeling for the promoters and the touring musicians and the touring merch dudes, tech dudes, sound people. It's must be a real challenge.
Yeah. Um. So let's talk about some of the things that maybe bleed through in your music. What are some of your influences? Like, what are some of the bigger bands that you've let sort of slide into your riffs?
Well, geez, so many, so many. Um. Oh my goodness. Well, right now, like with the Grail thing, like there's certainly a strong influence coming from bands like High on Fire and Mastodon, early Mastodon. But then, like, you can't, I've been listening to metal since, early 80s. So everything's going to make its way in there. All the early Metallica that I still love, all the Slayer, all the Testaments, and the local stuff like Sacrifice. That's a classic Canadian thrash band who I still absolutely love. And
You're
so
wearing their
so many.
shirt in the picture that you sent me, actually, that I put on
Yeah,
my.
right. I love that band. Actually, Rob from Sacrifice did a guest vocal on the Grail EP, on the very first track of the EP, the song Meth Aggressor. I
It's a great song.
I guess I've got to know him over the years of being a fan and going to see them play in the 80s. I have even a ticket stub from 85, seeing them in 85 at 16 years old. And so I had almost like an acquaintance anyway. He would recognize me. So I reached out to him and I said, "Hey man, you wanna do some guest vocals in the song?" And he got back to me. He's like, "Yeah, absolutely. This sounds heavy as hell, man." I'm like, "Oh shit." That was super rad for me to have Rob from Sacrifice sing on the Grail EP. It meant a lot to me, and it was made my day. Maybe made more than my day. It made me super stoked.
That's awesome. I love when
Yeah,
like you reach out to people that you really look up to, and they're just like, yeah, no problem. You're just like, what? Like,
it's surprising that that you're not going to know unless you try. Like we had the guitar player from Voivod do a guest solo on the old record, right?
mm,
And I just reached out to him. You know what I mean? We went to see them one night, like a handful of my friends, a bunch of my friends actually, because I know a ton of old school metalheads, and we all love
yeah,
Voivod. So we went to Voivod, and my wife Cara came as well, and we ended up going to a meet and greet before and chatting with them, and it was really super sweet. They were all super sweet dudes, and I don't know. I guess I just was just like, huh, why not just ask him if he wants to do a guest solo on the record? So I looked him up, and he has a website, and he teaches. He gives lessons, so he's not doing just Voivod. He's doing all kinds of other stuff in music. So I reached out like, hey, and he got back to me like within 3 hours. He's like, yeah, man, your stuff sounds great. I'd be happy to do a solo on it. I was like, oh shit. And it turned out so good. Like the guy's a wizard on guitar, man. He's so good on guitar.
crazy.
It was crazy. Voivod is one of my favorite bands, man. So to have the guitar player from Voivod on our album was just, it blew my mind. It still does thinking about it right now. It's really really cool for me.
So when you're working on something, any project, like if you're tackling an album, somebody brings you an album, says, hey, let's record this or whatever. You're mixing it or you're recording it or whatever. When you're approaching it, are you approaching it as an album, as a whole project, or you got to approach each song as its own little individual project?
Um, well, yeah, that's a tough question actually. A little bit of both. It depends what I'm doing. Like when I'm working with a band like Panzerfaust, we've done a couple of pretty big recording albums over the last few years. Well, we've actually worked together over a decade, but the
Yeah.
uh the last couple albums they put out, I produced, and they were big projects, like big albums, lots of time in the studio. So we want things to have a cohesive kind of sound. Not that we're not going to be rigid and not experiment, but we want the guitars to sound a certain way. We want the drums to sound a certain way. We want the bass to sound a certain way, and it to be somewhat consistent, other than maybe some special parts where we want big delays, big reverbs, and stuff like that. But so yeah, we want some cohesiveness. I do like to approach things as the sound of an album. However, that might change with certain projects. I mixed an electronic album recently, like it was more of a new wave electronic, and I guess there was still some consistency throughout it, but I approached each song in the mix completely separate, like, but just by default, the album starts to develop a sound. If you're mixing an album for like say 8 or 9 days, it's gonna just eventually start to develop its identity,
Yeah.
sound wise. You don't necessarily have to go in with a preconceived, like, this is how it's got to be. I don't want to go into a mix too rigid. It'll start to tell me what it what it should sound like eventually, right? I just
So
but
that
that's a
kind
mix.
of
Yeah.
that kind of plays into my next question, which is, do you produce music or does music produce you?
Yeah, well, good question. Interesting question. Well, sure, I produce music. But I don't even know how to answer that. Um, yeah, no, I produce music. Um, but the music also guides you a bit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Especially in a mix. But mixing is not producing. But mixing is a big part of the final sound and feel of a record, right? If it's poorly mixed, it's not gonna uh, be represented properly, right? So yeah, the music will guide me in a lot of cases. But yeah, I'm a music producer. I've never really thought about it like any other way, you know. But you got
So
me thinking. At least you got me thinking.
yeah, in your early days, did you have any sort of performance anxiety or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. I still do.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Like I'm excited to for this thing to be over and we can all get back to playing live shows, but I'll certainly be nervous. I always am, but it's about different stuff. It's more about like, will I go out of tune? You know, a lot of it is tuning. I I hate when things are out of tune so much. Like it just makes me die inside a little. Like I
mm,
can feel spirit just being stomped when things are out of tune. And maybe no one else hears it. I don't care. I do. And I hate it so much. So I don't like going out of tune. And I guess I'm nervous about probably different things like that. Like, will my guitar get stolen? Um, will someone spill beer on my JCM 800? Will everyone show up on time? Will people show up? That kind of things. Maybe it's not necessarily performance anxiety. It's more those other things I mentioned.
yeah. I
Because I'm
get
fairly confident that old. I'm just speaking of old. We're gonna go out there. We're gonna do what we do. I'm confident with everyone's ability. Um, yeah, tuning though. Jeez.
yeah. No,
You
I
know,
hear you.
hippie's a bit of a maniac. So, and I wouldn't want it any other way. But he's he needs to tune every song
Yeah,
the way he kind of does what he does, right?
definitely.
So,
No, I've seen it. I've seen him play more than a handful of times for sure.
yeah, yeah,
Hippie definitely needs to tune every song for sure.
yeah, yeah. You need to tune every song.
He's a thrasher for sure.
Yeah, he's got the full body headbangs.
You keep working into my next questions here. Can we talk about Moneen a bit?
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely, of course. Anything.
How much of their stuff did you produce? I
Oh, I don't know, a lot. You know, the first EP, the first full length, a lot of demos and pre-production
Red Tree.
for Red Tree and Happy, and then there was an EP that came out after Red Tree, which is kind of like I think it's songs off Red Tree and Happy maybe. I'm not actually sure. I should know this stuff, but I don't. But we did like acoustic versions of songs that they had already released.
Quiet, saying something you have already said before.
Yes, yeah. So I did that one, and then the Switcheroo.
I had
Um,
a
lots of stuff.
brain.
Yeah.
I had a what do you call it? One of those big ideas about remastering that kind of album, saying
Hmm.
something you have already said before, only louder. Because
Right.
that was an
Right.
acoustic one, and then you just do all
Yeah.
the songs again heavier. But hey, Moneen's really on the back burner. But hey, whatever. What was it like working with those guys though?
Always fun, man. Always really fun. Uh, we've developed incredible friendships over the years, and it was always a really good time. And um, very, very little like kind of ego in the studio. All of us just having a good time, and a lot of experimenting is really, especially once we got into like no, even the early stuff we were experimenting. There wasn't really enough time to experiment with the EP, the very first Smaller Chairs,
Hmm.
because I think that we did that in like 2 or 3 days. It was like everything was just getting it done, right? But then once we got into the second one, we had a little more time to experiment. And then when we did the the the, the switcheroo and then the quiet EP there, we had a lot more fun experimenting, right?
Yeah, I've seen videos of you like Kenny in the studio and you on the other side of the glass where he's just screaming at the guitar, trying to get the pickups to resonate with the strings just from his voice alone and stuff. I've seen you guys
Hmm.
have fun in those early days.
Oh yeah, man.
For anybody else
Always fun.
watching who doesn't know, Moneen is a band from my hometown, Brampton, that Greg had the pleasure of working with very early on. and they kind of shaped my music taste and what I listen to now. And they're just brilliant human beings and individuals altogether, friends of
Yeah,
both of ours. So, um, but yeah, I mean, I feel like they must have shaped you as a producer and as a musician.
sure. 100%. For sure, man. Every project, every band, every album, everything is part of the shaping, right? But because the frequency of those guys coming in, like we were always working on music together. So yeah, they were a big part of my development as a producer, engineer, mixing engineer. So absolutely, but everything has played a part, in just getting better and improving and shaping myself as a producer.
Hmm.
Hmm.
That's all great, man. I mean, everything that I've heard that you've worked on has been magnificent. Like what you worked on some stuff with the end as well, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
when I heard that
that
for
was
the first time, I was like I'd never heard them before when I heard that. And then
right.
Nick was like, "Greg produced this," and he's actually, I think he said you were on one of those tracks, at least one of those tracks.
I can't remember playing on it, but uh, I wouldn't doubt that maybe at some point I picked up a guitar and did something, but I can't remember it.
Some
But
of that stuff that I was going through, like some of the stuff you've worked on, and I was listening to it like over the past week or so, and some of
mhm.
it's just nuts. It's crazy. You said something's coming up. You've got something on the pot. Head of Jador.
Yeah, Head of Jador, which is something I'm doing with Friendly Rich, something that we did a while ago, but never properly released it. And so we're revisiting it and we're like, hey man, this is really good. Let's give this a proper release. Let's get proper artwork done. And just let's release it properly. So, and that's going to come out end of May, beginning of June. We're just working on some trailer videos right now. The mixes and masters are all done. The Bandcamp page is ready to publish. I sent you a link and a code
Thank
for
you for
to
that. Yeah,
get yeah, no, my pleasure.
it
Um,
shreds.
thank you. Thank you. And yeah, we did some updates to it because it was recorded and written a while ago. We just updated some stuff, the sound mainly. It's completely a new mix and master. We had some new guests just come on and do some little appearances, which we thought really improved the overall album. I'm really excited about it. We actually have some songs kind of written, but we're gonna just release this. Let's release this. Let's sit on it for a little bit, and then maybe later this year we'll record some new tracks. But I got my plate pretty full. So many things on the go, and it's super fun. I love being in more than one band, even though, it's a little tough to kind of
Bit of
balance
a
everything.
handful, but I mean,
Yeah.
with nothing, with nobody coming in and out of the studio, you might as well have your hands full with something. Better to have your hands
Yeah.
full than have your hands empty, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's completely saved me, like just being busy with my own stuff. Like I said, I'm thankful to have some outside work coming in and make a few dollars here and there and get some mixing and mastering projects. Like the choke things was great, and there's like the spread the disease remaster. It's great. These jobs I'm super thankful for, but it doesn't keep me busy enough, right? Because of what these lockdowns and whatnot, and it just makes things a lot more challenging. Um, it's tough. Not complaining. It's just really it's just a drag. I just want to work, and I want it all to come back. I want the world to go back to normal for everyone, not just for me, not in a selfish way, just for the bloody world.
Yeah, I hear you.
But, yeah.
So again, you kind of led into what I was talking about. You said you got a lot of things on the go. I was going to ask you, what are you working on now? Can you talk about anything you're working on? Can you
Sure.
divulge any projects?
Well, I'm mixing a record for a girl in BC right now. Her name is Rosina. Um, and they're poppy, kind of electronic songs. So that is like what I'm working on right now for clients. And I got a couple other like small mastering jobs coming in. I'm working on the newest Panzerfaust album that I guess just got put on hold.
Yeah.
As soon as the lockdowns are over, we're gonna get them up here and we're gonna finish this record. But myself, working on some new Grail things right now. We're writing some new material. We're doing this Entombed cover. That's been pretty fun. And I'm starting to write some punk stuff too, like some really fast, kind of fast, thrashy stuff. Not unlike the Hunter band. But this with some new dudes. Right now it's just I've been talking with you know Jarrett. Do you know Jarrett?
Yeah, I know
Drummer.
Jared. Uh,
Yeah. Talking to him about playing drums on it, and he's super on board. I haven't even sent him ideas yet. I have a bunch of ideas though. I have a bunch of stuff that I'm just kind of going through some old demos, and some of it's actually throwaway Hunter songs. Not that they were throwaways. It's just I'd write 20 songs, and
use four of them.
and then 7 or 8 would get picked. So I was going through a lot of those old ideas and seeing like, does it do any of them make me, fire me up, And
Yeah.
there's a couple golden rippers in there, so we'll see what happens with that. But I got the urge to play fast again, and Jared's got the fire, and he's got the I think the work ethic that I'm looking for.
Are we talking Jared Mallet?
Yeah,
Powerbomb, right?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was making sure that I knew the Jared that you were talking about. Definitely. Yeah, I know
yeah,
him. Good guy.
yeah. He's a great dude, and he's a great musician too. And I think he would just he'd be a good fit for the kind of stuff I'm thinking, like even when the other band was kind of active, if Jordan was ever, unavailable, Jarrett would be our first kind of choice because he's a great drummer. He can play fast, he's got a lot of energy, and he's a positive dude. I'm super into I don't want to play or work with anyone that's a bummer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
Life's
get
too
you.
short. Let's have a good time. What are
Yeah.
we doing for? Let's have fun.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, Greg, thank you for being on my podcast. Why don't you tell everybody where they could find you? I got your link in the chat.
Well, yeah, I'm on Instagram at BWC Studios, and I have a Facebook too. And what else? That's all I need, right? I mean, I have lots of bands, but on my Instagram, there's one of those flow pages, and then all my projects are attached to that
Yeah.
on the at BWC Studios
Loco.
Instagram. And then you can see all the other, you can check out all the other bands from there. It has Bandcamp links, other Instagram links, other Facebook links. There's enough stuff out there. Too
I'll
much to
drop all
talk
that
about.
on the description in the video. That'll be
Yeah, I
everywhere that
appreciate
you
that.
can find it. And Greg, thank you so much for joining me. Been
Dude,
great
thanks for
having
having
you.
me, man. It was a
Thanks a
nice
lot.
chat. I appreciate it. All right, brother.
I'll talk to you later, man.
Okay. Cheers,
Thanks for
man. Have a good
joining
night.
me. See ya.
See ya.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I was looking for somebody to raid, but it doesn't look like many people are on. Not many at all. Oh, my friend just went live, but he's playing video games. I want to leave you with a little bit of wisdom that I picked up recently. Let me just hop over to a better scene. All right. Oh, that's not a good scene. high. It's a better scene. So here's a bit of wisdom for you, okay? This was a story told by Ram Dass a little while back. Sorry, I'm getting into my dippy stuff. Once upon a time, there was a non-conforming sparrow who decided he didn't want to fly south for the winter. However, soon the weather turned so cold that he reluctantly started to fly south. In a short time, ice began to form on his wings, and he fell to earth in a barnyard, almost frozen. A cow passed by and crapped on the sparrow. The sparrow thought it was the end of the world, you know. The manure warmed him and thawed out his wings. So warm and happy, he started to chirp and sing. Just then, a large cat came by, and upon hearing the chirping, investigated the sounds. The cat cleared away the manure and found the chirping bird and promptly ate him. So there are 3 morals to the story. 1 is that everyone who shits on you is not necessarily your enemy. 2 is that everyone who gets you out of the shit is not necessarily your friend. And 3, if you are warm and happy in a pile of shit, keep your mouth shut. Reaper of Terror, thank you for subscribing for 16 months. Appreciate you very much. Everybody, please check out Greg Dawson. Thank you, Greg, for being my podcast guest today. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you again next time. Cheers, guys. Cheers.